Merry Christmas! Back to the Newsies is here to spread some retro gaming magazine holiday cheer. Hooray! Right, let's get the fire on for a little ambience. This issue is the dream for me. Everyone knows that 1998 was the greatest year in video games, and what better subject for a Christmas episode of BttN than an Xmas edition of my favourite magazine, Future Publishing's N64 Magazine, issue 23. While I was putting this issue together, I had a chance to interview the editor, James Ashton. I'll be releasing this as a podcast early 2022. But some of the fascinating things I learned will be incorporated into this episode. So look forward to some actual insight into how late 90s magazines were made. So get a fresh cup of eggnog, hot choc, absinthe, whatever, and get ready for a festive fusion of gaming, Christmas nostalgia, and brute-forced crimbo puns. On the 26th of November, something magical happened in newsagents across the blighted land of England. N64 Magazine Christmas issue went on sale. You know it's a Christmas issue as there's snow on the cover. Whee! It's already mashing that Christmas nostalgia button. Mind you, 140 pages, man alive. This is gonna be a long one. Of course, the cover is dedicated to soon-to-be-released Zelda Ocarina of Time. Worth the wait? Spoilers, yes it was. Fast futuristic driving in Wipeout vs Extreme G2. 6 best games to buy for Christmas. I'm in. Get ready to contribute your own list in the comments below. Wipeout vs Extreme G2. I mean, wee lordy, that's a clash. I remember buying the first Extreme G on a Boxing Day. That's the 26th of December to all you foreign types. It must have been Boxing Day 97, could be 98, but I don't think so for obvious reasons, as discussed later on in this episode. We get to see what's hot in the US and Japan, as well as peeks at Poop, Duke Nukem 0 Hour, and, oft misunderstood, South Park. This issue is tremendous! This would have set me back £2.95, that's $5.45 in 2021. And while I absolutely had this issue back in the day, over the years, through various follies, I threw out all of my gaming magazines. Grab a mince pie. We're going all the sleigh? All the way? All the sleigh? On the inside cover is an advert for V-Rally 99. It strikes me how professional this ad looks. It's a pin-sharp photo, but I can't help but feel sorry for the little N64. Dropped in mud, a tyre balanced on it. You're probably well aware that V-Rally started life as a PlayStation game and was ported over to the N64. This happened a fair bit due to the PlayStation being the console to develop for back then. Welcome to N64 Magazine. Look at them dressing the tree. They look about 15 years old. N64 Magazine has a creed. This isn't particularly rare. Some magazines lay their cards on the table when it came to how they deal with reviews. Example, Games TM would explain how a 10 out of 10 wasn't a mark of perfection. Games Master would encourage you to make your own opinions and then contrast that with that of the mag. N64 Magazine is independent, so no artificial score nudges by Nintendo, and they weren't reliant on the Big N for PAL versions of games that had been out in the States or Japan for months. First-hand reports and no speculation? Maybe. Turns out the team did have contacts in Japan who would supply them with Japanese games. Actual proper journalism. We have arrived, folks. Gaming magazines have grown up. In my interview with Mr. Ashton, I did question how slavishly they adhered to these rules. Turned out they really did, but with a few exceptions. What's in store for us this Christmas spectacular? Well, we can look forward to reviews for Ocarina, Extreme G2, Scars, 2 American football games, Wipeout 64, Turok 2, and Holy Magic Century. Well, Let's Smash has a very different connotation these days, but either way I'm up for it. 8 reviews in 140 pages though. There'll be more on that later. Win a 10 grand car. 10 whole £1,000. Although I'd rather have a copy of V-Rally than a Peugeot though. Mind you, the way retro prices are going, soon they'll be the same price. Kill me. Pure irreverence with Dr. Kit's psychiatric game clinic. Cannot wait. Let's find out just how sick we all are with an impromptu personality quiz. Alright, Duke Nukem 0 Hour, slightly cringe and outdated for the time, macho shenanigans abound. Join steroid enthusiast Duke Mittens Nukem as he races through time killing aliens. I always dismissed the third-person Nukem games. I generally have no idea why they exist. Duke Nukem 3D was an excellent first-person shooter, and the shift to third-person was just so unnecessary. I don't recall the game shifting to a more platform approach, so there's no real need to know Duke's exact position in a 3D world. Was it an attempt to be more Tomb Raider-like? Slay me! 21 levels? Jeezy crazy, do you remember when games were needlessly massive? It was around the time that longevity was a factor in buying games. 21 levels of Duke Nukem shooting aliens and making hilarious quips. I'm so in. GT World Tour, Nintendo 64's Gran Turismo beta, is only 4 months away. Well, that's half right. It is in no way better than Polyphony's Gran Turismo. It also had a name change in the interim. World Driver Championship came out a lot later in 1999 than advertised here. It says that Boss Games took a significant amount of time analysing Gran Turismo to make this game. Now, Gran Turismo took 5 years of obsessive development using bespoke software to make. This is based on Top Gear Rally's engine and a year's worth of development. There's no chance. Still, the game isn't entirely terrible. It's nicely bridging the gap between arcade and more serious racing. Look at the little stickers they applied to the pages. Exclusive! With a little Mario 64 star. The previous preview for Duke Nukem had a little played it stamp. This game will run in widescreen. Yes, kinda. We're shifting to the 16:9 ratio as standard. Everyone is buying those slick widescreen TVs to get the cinema experience at home. Man, I remember having a big old Panasonic TV in my room. It was incredible. It must have been 25-30 kilograms, and it was a decent 1.5 feet deep. It sounded amazing though. Those were the days. We may have Ultra HD screens now, but the sound is fairly poo. And an N64 looks like complete dog eggs upscaled for HDMI. I'll have to take points away for putting black text on a dark background image, but arranging the page around that screen grab is awesome. And look, there's a Chuckle Brothers reference. For you foreign types and children, the Chuckle Brothers were a hilarious comedy duo on the children's BBC slot. They were zany. This here is a reproduction of their classic catchphrase, to me, to you, usually uttered before one of them fell over, broke something, or fell over breaking something. Look, I mean, there were simpler times, okay? It was either this or reading by candlelight. Football! Alright, you yobs, it's your turn to get excited. Professional wunderkind Michael Owen has his own football game. He was a big deal back then. He could run about and kick a ball really, really well. Good job, Michael. Good job. You really kicked that ball, didn't you? Was it tiring? Was it tiring running around kicking that ball? Did you have an orange at half time? A nice juicy orange? Was it tasty? Did you clean your boots after the match? Get in there with a toothbrush, remove any stubborn mud from your cleats. How you played the game, Michael? Was it any good? Apparently one of the staff looks like him. I don't know, maybe in person? Apparently this was a pretty good game on the PlayStation. I don't know, as I only played International Superstar Soccer 64. This cutout of Mr. Owen looks too good to have been captured on the N64 directly. I wonder if this is some sort of promotional still taken from an in-development version on a PC and then given to the mag. Yeah, wrestling. Not WWF though. This is the also-ran World Championship Wrestling / New World Order. Gosh darn it, wrestling in the late 90s was edgy as balls. The Attitude Era, Hollywood Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Good times. I'd kind of grown out of it by then, but my brother was still into it. He'd buy the games up to the GameCube era, I think. Seems this game was very well received. Wrestling always struck me as an incredibly technical sport. I mean, how could the moveset of each wrestler be conveyed through a handful of buttons and an analog stick? Surely in most games it was a case of punch the opponent until they need a little lie down. Any wrestling fans out there? Explain it to me. This is the news! Love this stuff. I love looking back at the predictions and the incidental events that don't get much attention in retrospectives. That little dude in the top left corner is the mascot of the mag. He is Worldly Bloke. He featured on the front cover of the tips book that came bundled with issues of N64 Magazine. Usually he was mocked up to resemble famous characters. Superplay, N64 Magazine, and eventually Rare's Will Overton came up with the design. You can see the manga influences in his design. He's a damn talented chap. What have we got here? Seems that it was in 1998 that the BAFTA started to recognise video games as having an impact on the British entertainment industry and therefore worthy of one of those masked things they give out as prizes. Naturally, GoldenEye won Game of the Year. A bit weird, as it had already been out for over a year at this point. Founders of Rare, the Stamper brothers, won Best UK Developer. Christ, imagine that now. No joke. Rare have fallen so far from grace that they're little more than those Kinect guys now. It's a shame. What's this? A Super Mario-based digital board game? Heresy! Turns out the franchise would still be going strong-ish 23 years later. Mario Party was already out in Japan at this time and ready to wreck controllers this Yuletide season. OMG! Rogue Squadron has been delayed. This game is a belter. Sequel to Shadow of the Empire? Not quite. Shadows was an original story set between Empire and Jedi. Rogue Squadron is a bit like Star Wars' Space Combat's Greatest Hits compilation. Delaying it to keep the Christmas lineup uncluttered makes sense, and had little effect on sales. It did really well, selling 500,000 units in the US in December 1998. If I may be so bold as to critique Ninty, I would have swapped Body Harvest for Rogue Squadron, as it's decent, but nowhere near as good as Factor 5's Space Shooter. Enormous demand for Ocarina has seen the UK release date pushed back to the middle of December, cutting it very fine. I think it was the 18th of December or maybe later. I got my pre-order copy on Boxing Day, I think. I made a special trip into town to pick it up from Electronics Boutique with my best mate. I was incredibly excited. If you have the means, you can go onto a website and look at an F-Zero comic or read about Zelda 64. I wonder if either of these sites are still going. Nope. But thanks to oldweb.today, we can have a gander. Well, kinda. It's worth reminding ourselves that we are living in a time where emulating a Macintosh, running Mac OS, running Netscape in an internet browser is a thing. Madness. Money off HMV? I'm in. HMV were pretty good for games back in the day. I got my purple Game Boy Color from an HMV shortly after Christmas, I think. Probably used one of these very vouchers. Save £8 when you get your handheld and, in my case, a copy of Harvest Moon. That's the perfect combination. I should be paying £8 extra just for the privilege. Nintendo wins the right to make a game based on the Phantom Menace. Oof, big nope there. LucasArts only published Episode 1 for the PlayStation, and we all know how that turned out. There was a kind of Episode 1 game for the N64 in Rogue Squadron spin-off, Battle for Naboo. Elf on the Shelf fanzines? I don't remember this being a regular feature at all. Do you remember fanzines? For anyone under the age of 65, fanzines were fan magazines. Yet another thing mercilessly executed by the arrival of the internet. These days, you'd call them blogs. Sad emoji. Retro gamer, you say? An idea like that will never take off. Old games are for gramps. I want to play Adidas Pro Soccer and Need for Speed. With Sega out of the picture, the console war shifted to Nintendo versus Sony. Spoilers, Sony won. And to celebrate these playground shenanigans, Ben Mawson crafted this photocopied tome to chronicle the ongoing battles between the two Japanese titans. To be fair to money grabber Ryan Metcalf, Total Entertainment is absolutely the name of a third-tier monthly unofficial Nintendo publication. Still, £2 was the same price as 2000 AD then. Probably, sure, why not? Japan news comes in the form of, hey, you, Pikachu, rumours, which, like the excellent Densha to Go 64, uses the VRU peripheral that allows you to talk to the game. Whisper sweet nothings into Pikachu's ear for reasons known only to yourself. Light fishing sim Legend of the River King gets a fish-shaped guitar made in its honour as a PR stunt. This is Japan? Of course it did. I can't find any evidence for it though. Also, it should be Nushitsuri though. Meh and N do look similar. Retro World? In a Nintendo magazine? In 1998? Now, it's easy to lump all retro games together under the banner without realising the gap between the Atari VCS and the N64 is roughly 20 years. To make you feel even older, the jump from N64 to PS5 is 23 years. Yay! Jason kindly gives us a run-through of the rise and fall of Atari, as well as reviews some classics from the Atari 7800, games that were unplayable on Nintendo machines until various compilations came out in later years. There's a sneaky curiosity-piquing advert for quirky puzzle action game Space Station Silicon Valley, as featured in my hit YouTube series, The 100. Links below. Coming soon to an N64 near you. Roadsters 99. Now, I'm not sure if it's a coincidence, but since Gran Turismo came out, there have been a glut of 3D racing games. Not much to say here other than it's another one of those. Gotta say, with the N64 being probably my favourite console of all time, and having heard of most of the games on it, Roadsters isn't ringing a bell. Even Michael Owen football had lodged itself somewhere in my noggin. Some of the best graphics on an N64 racer. I don't know about that. Fresh from its box out in the news page, Mario Party gets a column. The famous beach ball minigame gets a mention. I wonder if they had any idea there would be another 10 games in the series. What is interesting is that they view this as a prelude to a Mario 64 sequel. Nope. You will have to wait for the disappointing Mario Sunshine for the next sequel, kids in 1998. Looking at the info pane, we have developer, cart size, players, and regional release windows. Cart size was one of those things like CPU speeds or polygon count that suggested bigger equals better. Mario Party was going to launch on a 96 megabits or a 12 megabyte cartridge. That sounds meaty, but was pretty much the standard at this point. Eventually, a couple of carts would be a whopping 64 megabytes. Jinkies! But then again, a PlayStation disc could hold 10 times as much data. Yay! I had this game. It's not that bad. Come on. You know it's alright. I was a huge fan of the series, and being able to walk around in South Park and toss snowballs at turkeys was a dream come true. What is surprising, as stated here, is that Nintendo would allow such a foul-mouthed TV show to appear on their squeaky clean, fun-for-all-the-family console. This game used the Turok 2 engine and had control schemes that allowed players to play the game as though it was Turok or GoldenEye. GoldenEye was the better control scheme. New pics, new info. These solid 3D characters are miles better than the flat ones you get in the cartoon. Oof, big nope there. Remember when Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh was almost Christmas #1 in the UK? That would be Christmas 1999. In 1998, Chef's Salty Chocolate Balls made its #2, being beaten by the Spice Girls with Goodbye Pop Pickers. Who the hell buys a console to play fishing games? The intro sting is pretty good. It's the most sedentary game indeed. Why have a fishing game without a dedicated rod controller? Thankfully, there was such a peripheral. Hooray! Not so sedentary now, you're having to flail about rod in hand. This would have to tide us over until Sega Bass Fishing graced the Dreamcast. Man alive, that game was so good. The move to 3D was not kind to NBA Jam. There were frame rate drops, and depth of field issues hampered the games. Still, this one did pretty well, I guess. Meh. Does it still go boom, shakalaka, and is it the shoes? That's all we really wanted from an NBA game. And big head mode. Oof, now you're talking. Based on hit but famously unfinished anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion, the text here is absolute quality. The game itself is a one-on-one fighter, a bit like Ultraman, in that two towering titans square off in over-the-top bombastic fights. It looks very impressive with the visuals ripped straight from the anime, but it plays like a Tesco trolley with a sticky wheel. Wait, hang on a second. It plays like a Tesco trolley full of Christmas shopping with a sticky wheel. Oh, and you can replace TBA with No Chance in Hell. Ogre Battle 3, Person of Lordly Caliber, released as Ogre Battle 64, Person of Lordly Caliber, because 80% of N64 games had to have 64 in their title. This is an RTS RPG series that, well, kind of fell off the face of the earth. There were 3 games that fared well with critics, but they weren't very popular with the general player base. For some reason I don't fully know, I have a loose copy of this for my Japanese N64. I played it for about 10 minutes, but the amount of kanji was oppressive. I think this counts as one of those hidden gems of gaming that crops up in gaming lists every now and then. Look, a game based on those pull back and go toy cars that everyone loves. What can go wrong? In Japan, Tomy have a line of these little cars called Choroku, sort of cutesy deformed versions of real cars. Penny Racers is the Western version of Choroku 64, a racing game aimed at young players who collected the cars. And as such, it looks like a game aimed at young players who collected the cars. It's weird. So far, every driving game I've talked about in this video has reminded me of Beetle Adventure Racing, which kind of makes that the pinnacle of N64 races. It ends with a nice word of warning from the previewer. Next, an advert. No way! A brand new star! Excellent! I'm sure it will stand the test of time, and even in these cold days at the end of 2021, his star shines bright for us all. Continuing the news beat, there is a column of news that doesn't quite warrant its own segment. More talk of the exclusive rights to Phantom Menace. No, sorry guys, that nonsensical name is here to stay. Toe Jam and Earl coming to the N64? Nope, got killed very early in development. Ooh, 12 Tales. Now, that's a good story. This is the game that would become Conker's Bad Fur Day. 12 Tales, Conker 64 was another cute, violence-free 3D platformer from Rare. Following on from the success of Banjo 1 and 2, and soon Donkey Kong 64, Rare scrapped the cutie 12 Tales and remade it as Conker's Bad Fur Day, a game now worth about £70 billion for a boxed copy. On a particularly slow news day, Norwich Evening News published an article about Last Level Games having a loose cart on sale for £130. That's it. That's the whole story. A shop that sells games is selling a game. Norwich is that kind of town, folks. I can attest that this shop is really good and, Conker aside, is reasonably priced. Midway had a good relationship with Nintendo and the N64. Their classic arcade racer, Cruisin' USA, was a joint venture between Nintendo and Midway, and used some of the technology in the yet-to-be-released N64 to run the arcade game. The Rush series played like a high-octane version of the Cruisin' series, and this, Rush 2, sequel to San Francisco Rush, is mayhem on 4 wheels. I remember playing San Francisco Rush 2049 in a bowling alley back in the day, and on the Dreamcast. Crazy shortcuts, ramps, it's all good fun, and it's fast. This one's full of product placement though. Mountain Dew, EGM Magazine, billboards for other Midway games, and more. I like the damage that occurs to your car as you bounce off the walls and other drivers. It's very cool. Oh look, it's the follow-up to that advert about a new star. It's Starshot! Yes! The Starshot! Star of hit games like Space Circus Fever and... he juggles. That's it really. It didn't stand out or sell enough copies to warrant becoming a franchise. Nothing on Earth will prepare you, except for Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, DK64, Glover, Earthworm Jim 3D, or any of the other legions of mascot 3D platformers. Gex! I forgot about Gex. Don't forget about Gex. Look at this chart. Look at it. The best F-Zero game, a ridiculously good-looking F1 game, the best snowboarding game, Mission Impossible is here, the only game that comes close to knocking Mario 64 off its pedestal, Bomberman Hero, sports. Alright then, just look at the first half of this official chart. One memory I have about the N64 is the slipperiness of the release dates. So much so that at one point I was going to furiously trade in my N64. The only way to find out if a game had been delayed was when you got to the shop to find it not on the shelf. Raging! I didn't realise it at the time, but there wasn't that much coming to the N64 for the first few years due to the inconsistent third-party support. But I did notice the spells between quality releases. That was very apparent. It felt like forever. Overall, the Nintendo 64 didn't have that much of a big library, just shy of 400 games over its 6-year lifespan, just beating Sega's Master System. See how starved we were? There's a golf game in the top 10. That's how dire it was. My copy has the lower left corner missing. According to a scan on archive.org, there was a £5 off any top 10 game at Game. £5 off on the run up to Christmas? You saints! Game weren't always the shower of silage they are now. Sure, they were no electronics boutique, but that short-lived beauty was too good for this world. Man alive, the team at N64 loved a racer, didn't they? This reader's most played chart is much more reasonable. Bloomin' Banjo, though. Played it not so long ago on the Rare Replay compilation. Still phenomenal. So referring back to my earlier statement, take every date here with a Himalayan salt lamp-sized grain of salt. Some gems on the horizon, Rogue Squadron, Banjo-Tooie, oof, Mother 3, yeesh. Perfect Dark, Shadow Man, Super Mario 64 2? I have no idea where they got this idea from. I guess I just looked at what happened on the NES and SNES with the sequels and assumed that the N64 would get one at some point. Nihon Sei, made in Japan with Max Everingham. I used to like sections like this. Back then, Japan was impregnable and mysterious. Their games slowly drip-fed to us over the course of months or years. Japan exclusives taunted us, and wars of kanji prevented us from truly enjoying their games. Damn them. Of course, it's gone full 180 now, with the West dominating gaming, and Japan kind of making a comeback. In this issue, intrepid reporter Max went to the Tokyo Game Show 1998, and the Nintendo lineup looks particularly ropey. That's a nice banner for the Dreamcast though. Damn, I miss that machine. What was on display for Nintendo was amazingly unimpressive. Goemon 2, an RPG called Zool, not to be confused with the Amiga classic platformer Zool. There is an image of Gambare Goemon on the N64. That's not Zool, you silly boy. That'll be in next issue's correction corner. See later in the mag. The blue box out is fun, all about his life in Japan, and I can relate. In particular, he says, Japan has a total of 16 celebrities who, in a stunning piece of logistical planning, managed to provide the entire day's programming for all 8 terrestrial channels. Now, I wrote a blog post about this back when I was living in Japan. In Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, the inspiration for Blade Runner, there was a TV show called Buster Friends and His Friendly Friends. The implication is that they are all replicants due to them being on TV 24 hours a day on various channels. This is true of Japan. It is nuts. There are a core handful of celebrities that appear on literally every talk show, panel game show, what have you, at any time of the day. Now, I'm not saying they are androids, but if any country on Earth would have androids posing as celebrities on TV, you know where I'm going. In an intriguing attempt to convince gamers to become musicians, Yamaha has advertised a synthesizer. Great. Woo. No keyboard skills required. This isn't games. I don't know what to say. I'm moving on. Xmas! It's blooming Christmas. I love Christmas. Oh my god, I'm going to erupt with Christmas goodness. Look at them, sat around their tree on an N64 Magazine cartridge stand. I had one once. Actually, now you say, that guy does kind of look like Michael Owen. God damn it, I cannot describe how exciting this is. Christmas plus N64 equals PSTG overload. I'm actually giddy thinking about this. What are these 6 games I would proudly display in my rack? I'll have to read on to make an informed decision. Oh, and props to the team at N64 for highlighting how crap the packaging was for Nintendo games. It wasn't until the GameCube before we got cases that weren't compostable, hence the insane prices for boxed NES, SNES and N64 games. This issue came with a plastic rack that held 6 N64 carts, hence the team choosing their top 6 and not 5 or 10. The rack was designed by editor James, and like I said, I've lost mine. There are at least a 10 on eBay, which means I'll never get another one. So the far left column is full of suggestions by genre of games that were released in 1998. To be precise, it seems to be the last 4 months of 1998. Well, it's been a bit of a rough year for fighters, hasn't it? Right here, this is the paradigm of personality-led games journalism. For us looking at this now, we're seeing a group of 20-somethings talking about their game choices, but then, this was your older, smarter, cooler mates who played games for a living to give you the inside scoop. Free from the constraints of review format or corporate oversight. The spread of personalities and interests covers a spectrum of genres just about, and I'm sure that readers had favourite reviewers and others who were just wrong about everything. It makes sense that Twitch and YouTube videos are so wildly popular. I mean, they are the 90s journalists of today, personality-led and absolutely free from feta, talking directly to their fans. Turns out their choices weren't necessarily their choices though. You can hear more about that in the interview coming soon. One thing is very clear, Turok 2 and Zelda are the clear winners for Crimbo 1998. As they should be, they are outstanding. Although the level design in Turok 2, particularly later on, leaves a fair bit to be desired. 95% is insane. It's still great though. Plenty of praise is heaped on the forgotten/overlooked space station Silicon Valley and the visually bland but fast F-Zero X. Rakuga Kids, a game completely forgotten by time, has won over the team at N64. Outside of the raves, there are some lesser games that might appeal to fringe gaming interest groups. Players of Dog Eggs games get a suggested 6 games to scratch their unnatural itch, and a series of games in the 70 to 80 category. Not stellar, but solid games. All the games on these pages are currently in the charts, which explains a lot of the repetition, and some of the great games that came out earlier in 1998 not getting a mention. If your game hasn't featured in the team's listings here, you can vote for your own. And there are some suggestions for next year's top 6. 12 Tales never came out. Hybrid Heaven is a very weird game that took a critical drubbing, but I still bought it as there was nothing else coming out at the time. Duke Nukem was meh, and DK64 was interesting. That scraped a last-minute 1999 release. Cool, blimey, that's an advert, isn't it? Looks like it was cobbled together using sweepings from the Office Christmas party. Still, Gex and Buck aside, these are all smashers. Virgin Megastores bought 2 full pages in the UK's best-selling Nintendo 64 magazine and used it to advertise 8 games and a voucher. Less than a third of the page is actually devoted to the games, and then even the black surround on the box art limits the amount of cover art on display. Probably a good idea now think about it though. Don't rely on mum and dad knowing the name of the game you want. Make sure they have an exact image of the exact box art etched into their minds to avoid any Christmas errors. Now I think about it, the cutouts, collage and printed label make this look more like a ransom note than an advert. A lovely looking little chocky Santa though. Alright, on to the meat of the magazine, reviews. This is awesome. 85% and above is a star game. We should take note. Actually, it's 2021. We should have eschewed arbitrary scoring conventions long ago, but as previously mentioned, in today's absolutely pooch scoring system, anything below 92% is unplayable trash. This gauge flags some of the flaws inherent in the 0 to 100 scoring system. Just what the hell do you do with a game in the 50 to 70 range? I mean, there might be something that appeals to you specifically. It might be a specific genre or character or franchise, I don't know. All us old gits have games in our collection that we played to death, only to realise in later years that the games media of the day had proclaimed them a little bit poo. Here's a bit about what's been going on with the team this month. Unsurprisingly, they have all been hypnotised by the greatest game of all time. In case you're wondering, Shigsy is Shigeru Miyamoto, which was a running joke in N64 Magazine. Seems to have all had an interesting month. The ongoing gag with Martin Kitts was that he was some sort of a psychopath. All the team members had their thing, be that sports games, or in a session with Japan, or something similar. Straight to the most important release of 1998, Ocarina. This is part 1 of 2, as by their creed, they cannot award a score to a game they have yet to finish. Previously in N64, they are not joking, this was Nintendo's killer app for the N64. Its existence had been made public back in 1995, and screens, insider information, and outright bollocks had been circulating ever since. It was finally here. The game to end all games. The apotheosis of the Zelda game series. A game to this day that hasn't been surpassed in the franchise. We've got 8 pages, 8 of preliminary review. It might not be enough. Got some lovely art here for various characters. I've got Zelda, Link and Epona, Ganon looming in the background, fixated on the princess. It's a nice composition. The intro paragraph sets a scene for the game's inception. Good old Miyamoto had planned a grand adventure like this since the 1980s, but of course the technology prevented him from making it. Finally, 64-bit silicon graphic technology allowed him to realise his dream. Reviewer Will Overton also takes a crack at the CDI Zelda games, as is tradition. Ocarina, the grandest, greatest RPG to date, came on a whopping 256 megabit cart. That's 32 meg conversion, fans. Now that's not very much. That's like 10 copies of Slade's Merry Christmas Everybody on MP3. So the double page spread has set the scene. It's big, it's important, it's a star game, and the reader is almost certainly going to buy it if they haven't pre-ordered it already. I had. So excited. But I didn't make the first wave of releases. I got mine on the first restock. You know, it's weird. Although I was 17 when this game came out, in my memories of Boxing Day 1998, I'm about 7 and dressed like Kevin from Home Alone. The next few pages go over the initial environments, opening cinematic, and some of the new mechanics of the game. The starting area and first dungeon get a little info, nothing like the explicit descriptions and walkthroughs featured in Club Nintendo from last episode. We'll find out in a couple of pages that the team did not receive a review copy, and that these screens were given to them at a press event. The colour gradient on this page is really interesting. It seems to drag the eye quickly to the right of the page, and therefore the next part of the review, as do the go green buttons. It's only when you're outside Kokiri Village that the full grandeur of Link's world really hits you. You might not notice it at first, but there's none of the dreaded pop-up here at all. A clever combination of real-time and pre-rendered graphics let you see for what seems like miles. As anyone who had an N64 will tell you, pop-up was a nightmare. Due to the limitations of memory, the N64 could only draw so much on screen at once. If the player started moving, the console had to start drawing new things. If the player moved too fast or there was too much going on, the next set of graphics would just pop in from nowhere. Now, programmers on the N64 used fogging to hide the most egregious pop-up, but some still remained. In most modern emulators, there is masses of pop-up. Look at the lazy as balls N64 games on the Switch. Dear Lord. So, Hyrule Field will have the big, far-off things in the distance pre-rendered and drawn onto a skybox, while the terrain and interactive elements will be polygonal. Oh, if you want an example of fogging done well, look at Turok. Not only does the fog hide the shocking graphic pop-up, but it also adds loads of atmosphere to the game. After talking about the pre-rendered environments in the castle, this section shifts to Lon Lon Ranch, home of energizing milk, also Epona and chicken chasing, and then goes to Kakariko Village on the way to Death Mountain. Now, it's not really worthy of the name, because actually it's a really jolly place full of lovely Gorons. Now we get to the pros proper. Apparently there were no review copies handed out due to last minute tinkering. This is apparently true, with Miyamoto really shaking things up in the summer of 1998 that required a lot of changes. The carts were going straight to the paying public, but the magazine staff were flown out to an event held by Nintendo and given the chance to play the game. But is it any good? Again, this is very much a futile cat and mouse game. Of course it is. There was never any doubt. Nintendo are the frigging masters. They do not piss about, and they do not let anything out the door that will besmirch the Nintendo seal of quality, which was on its last legs at this point. They definitely won't fudge the most important game of all time. Will Overton allay your fears of dodgy translations, awkward cameras, and poor value for money, confirming that yes, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time is the balls. It plays to the series' strengths, it's familiar and new, it's stunningly beautiful. Shut up, children. Fortnite looks like arse. The only downside is that the game has to end. And them's the breaks, kiddies. All good things must come to an end. Spoilers for next issue. It's 10-10-10-99. Nah, not really. I don't know what it is. There are surprisingly few scans of N64 magazines available. I hear they're out there. I hear talk of people with complete sets, but the tossers won't digitally preserve them. May their houses burn down and they spend their days sobbing into the ashes. Right, it's XG2 because it's the 90s and Extreme G was so 97, there had to be a name change. I really enjoyed Extreme G, it was damn fast. The murky colour palette was a bit much. Again, as a kid, I would have assumed that these games were made in America, where all the cool stuff was in the 90s. Not like now. Good job, Team America. But no, these are made by Probe in the good old U of K. Now, XG2 is really Extreme G 1.5, coming out a mere 12 months after the first game and using the same engine. A fair criticism of the first game was the narrow tracks and tight turns, which were utterly unsuited to the incredible speeds your bike was going at. In XG2, this is taken care of by the speeds being slightly reduced and the tracks being widened. Good job, Probe! Think of XG2 as the game Extreme G should have been. Wise words there. Back then, kiddies, there were no 12GB one-day patches, so publishers just patch up their games and re-release them. Often the budget re-releases of games had bugs ironed out too. Solid 8s all round with a Star Game Award winning 85 from Jez. A perfectly fine score for a perfectly fine second attempt at a Wipeout beta. Yay, I've not seen one of these since episode 1 of this series. Link below. Call and win. The max call cost is only £3. That's not bad. I'd punt £3 on winning a copy of Spyro the Dragon. Or a pager. Hoots mon, I had a pager back then, so mummy could check on her little soldier. Ooh, I think I know who that is. That is Spicy Spice, and that is Michael Jackson. Now, I don't like crisps. Well, I don't dislike them, they just aren't a thing for me. I seldomly have a crisp, so labelling this room as a paradise because it's full of manky cheese and onion flavoured crisps, the worst flavour, is erroneous. The controllers hanging on the wall are a nice touch though. I imagine kids these days won't have a Scooby-Doo what they are supposed to be. Now this was a thing. It was popular to have 3 birds, usually ducks I think, hanging on the wall, posed mid-flight. It was naff then, and used ironically here. According to Know Your Kitsch, they are emblematic of mid-century middle-class suburbia, they originated in Stoke-on-Trent, and they featured in Coronation Street exhaustively. There's a link below if you need more info. Still, manky crypts aside, these games more than make up for it. Zelda 64, seen here still using promo box art, Turok Seeds of Evil and V Rally 99 are all winners. WCW is pretty good as we previously discussed. I wonder what they are arguing about on the box. Hollywood Hulk looks pretty composed, but that other guy is livid! Hulk's like, I didn't touch your Pop-Tarts, brother! But the other guy is all, yeah you did, I can see the icing crumbs in your beard! The two in the back are just like, Just get more Pop-Tarts. There's a spa right around the corner. It's so close you can do it in your slippers. You don't need to put your shoes on. Hulk follows with, you hear that? A spa in spitting distance. Put on a cardi and pop round. Damn it, Hulk! The bald, beardy man cries. Why do I always have to get more Pop-Tarts to replace the ones you stole, you muscly menace? I'm going, but this time I'll get strawberry ones because I know you hate those. No! Cries Hollywood Hulk Hogan. But his cry falls on deaf ears as the slaphead shuffles down to the corner shop. Composing himself, Hulk sidles up to the two at the back. Joke's on him. I secretly quite like the strawberry ones. Chortle. This ad is from Woolworths, rest in peace. I miss you more with each passing day. Seriously, I have dead relatives that I have 100% forgotten about, but there's still a colossal Woolworths-shaped hole in my heart. A 4-pager for Scars, a game I know nothing about. As I said before, there were tons of racing games on the N64, and anything that wasn't Mario Kart 64, F-Zero X, Diddy Kong Racing Extreme G, and Cruising USA can get in the bin. Oh yeah, and that amazing F1 game that everyone had. Hang on, I'm gonna have a go on this one. Yep, it's like an angry Mario Kart. What do the team at N64 Magazine think about it? Let's look at this review. There's a theme developing in N64 Magazine. They bloody love a box out. There are loads of them, often spanning half a page or more. The formula so far is preliminary text and cataphoric reference to the ending review text. Box outs, then the actual review text. The box outs are comprehensive though, each one dedicated to a key facet of the games in question, in this case, multiplayer, weaponry, track design, and the kart design. Heavy derision in the opening paragraph. It's all style and little substance. As damning as the text is, criticising pretty much every aspect of the game that isn't a multiplayer, it still gets a solid 79%. Yes kids, 79% means that the game is good and completely playable if you're into that sort of thing. The background for this text is great. It looks like a chain link fence has been photographed and warped. It mirrors the in-game undulating menu screens. It looks cool and futuristic though. The game is completely alright. I'll give it another go. Ultimate Entertainment would like to take this opportunity to sell you some reasonably priced games on launch day. Spaff sports games aside, there are some bloody gems on here. But no thanks chaps. Electronics Boutique on Petikiri has a copy waiting for me. It's long gone now of course. I bloody love Electronics Boutique. Nowadays, a Timberland shoes is where Electronics Boutique nee Future Zone once stood. God damn, I hate living in the future. Look, this magazine is 140 pages. We're not even halfway, and the script is already 6,721 words. These are sports games, and not only that, they are American sports games, and therefore worthy of even less attention than proper British sports. Hats off to Martin Kitts for enduring 2 American football games long enough to write a lengthy comparative review. I can't imagine that there were that many fans of American football in the UK to warrant porting these 2 games over from the States. Still, there was no language barrier, and I don't think they would have launched with European language packs, so I guess it would have been relatively easy money. Man alive, more American sports! At least this is a one-pager. NASCAR is genuinely baffling, isn't it? Watching cars go around an oval for 7 hours or 600 laps. Oof, it's more PlayStation than N64. Now that is a bold claim. Technically, the N64 hardware was better equipped for 3D and included anti-aliasing, but the PlayStation looked the balls, and I have to say, generally speaking, PS graphics have held up better over time. Luxuriantly average. Love it. Bin this, get Daytona on the Saturn instead. 59% is not a broken game, just one that isn't very fun and hasn't made much of its potential. It's playable and probably very fun for a specific audience. More folk trying to sell us stuff. There are a lot of product listings on this page, jeez. It's British games from a British seller. £90.99 for an N64 bargain of the millennium. The arcade shark stick is a bit of a rhino. Might have to get a search on eBay. I do like odd controllers. I might do a video on a couple of gems I've got. Now, I'm interested. Game Boy Emulator for the N64. Now, I had no idea such things existed. Turns out, there was something called the GB Hunter, which allowed Game Boy games to be played on an N64. It used pass-through technology similar to the Game Genie and other cheat devices, meaning an official cart had to be used in the device. Apparently, not all games worked, and Game Boy Color games didn't work at all. Crazy. I mean, I wonder why Nintendo didn't make an official one. The SNES had a Super Game Boy, the GameCube had the Game Boy Player, but the N64 had nothing. Here it is, the game in direct competition with XG2, separated by a handful of reviews and adverts. It's Wipeout 64! Another game I own. It has slightly better textures and minor changes to the weapons. 90% I reckon. Right, we're done. Oh, hang on, there's another 5 pages to this review. Let's look a little closer, shall we? There are only 6 tracks. That's a bit limiting. Still, they are pretty amazing though. I got on with Wipeout 64 far better than the original, mainly due to the analog stick and because I love my N64 and want to marry it. This is the only Wipeout game to appear on a Nintendo console, the other games in the series being PlayStation exclusives. For my money, the Vita version is the best. Dear lord, I clocked up some serious hours in that, rattling around various trains in Japan. There are the usual features in racing games to pad it out and appear to offer extra content outside the GP mode. There are time trials, multiplayer, and challenge mode. Tim Weaver posits Wipeout as a kind of thinking man's racing game, stating that minor errors on the part of the player which wouldn't be as devastating in the likes of F-Zero and XG2 are in this game fatal, and that the game requires you to learn it and in return is more rewarding. Tim has distilled the entire concept nicely and made his case. It isn't for everyone, but those that get it, and those that don't can learn it to get it and develop an affinity for the game. The visuals score an 8, praising the lack of fog but lamenting the pop-up. You can't have it both ways, I'm afraid. Sound gets a perfect 10 due to the digitization of 8 tracks from Fluke and propeller heads. Banging trance, I think, maybe, I don't know, I wasn't hip back then. It gets an excellent 88% and a Star Game Award, meaning that this, Wipeout 64, is the winner in this issue's clash of the futuristic racing titans. Well done, Psygnosis. I hope you don't get bought out, lose your individuality, and get shut down in 2012, meaning yet another amazing British game studio bites the dust. FFS. Hey, it's Turok 2, a very special game for me and one of the few remaining Christmas memories that age and bitterness hasn't replaced. I remember it well. I opened all my presents. No Turok 2, that's okay, I hadn't asked Santa for it. We visit family, eat, get more presents. Eventually, we go home, and Mum brings out one more super secret present. Turok 2 on the Nintendo 64. I couldn't believe my mince pies. How did you know I wanted it? Baby 17-year-old Press Start to Game asked. Are you kidding? You haven't shut up about it for months, replied my younger brother. Oh. I think Mum was welling up with emotion. I don't know, I was busy racing upstairs to slam this into my N64 and shoot dinosaur men in the face. Cheers, Mum. You're alright. Turns out there was a delay in the launch of Turok 2, meaning that the review came out ages ago. This is a little top-up review to remind you that Turok 2 is awesome, as if you forgot. Now, I have to say, in the cold light of 2021, Turok 2 has not aged as well as the first game. The later level maps look like they were designed based on random piles of spaghetti. It still looks good though, and there is some cracking violence, and I concur that riding the Triceratops is incroyable. It is a solid package and one of those games that really benefited from having the RAM pack installed. 95%. Man, I mean, they really like it. I think that's a little high though. I'm playing it on the Switch now, and there's this level I cannot make head nor tail of. No idea where I'm going. What the bloody hell is Holy Magic Century? Well, kids, it's an RPG for the N64 that came out on the run-up to the greatest RPG of all time, Ocarina of Time. Who the frig planned that? They sent this out to die. Still, it's a 3D third-person RPG featuring a magic dude called Brian. The N64 was far from the system for RPGs. Sony's PlayStation had more than you could shake a stick at, but the N64? You can count them on both hands. Hell, for Europe, you'd only need one hand. The poor, starving N64 owning RPG fans would be all over this. It's just a shame it wasn't very good. Real-time battles and a day and night cycle couldn't save it from the repetitive gameplay and boilerplate plot. And of course Zelda. There can be only one, folks. An advert for the short-lived Arcade Magazine, which in time would see staff from N64 Magazine join on. There are a couple of great podcasts from Maximum Power Up featuring writers involved with Arcade Magazine. The Tim Weaver one is particularly good. Links below. I'll be doing an episode of Back to the Newsies on Arcade Magazine somewhere in 2022 or 3022 at the rate I'm currently working at. Let's smash our way through Import Corner. In a recent review I had with James Ashton, he talked me through their process of reviewing or previewing imports from Japan. It was of dubious legality, and the Big N would have been furious. Being an unofficial mag, the team at N64 were under no obligation not to feature games that were already out in the US or Japan, unlike official mags which were generally only allowed to focus on official UK and EU releases. They could talk about whatever they wanted, but, as we discussed in the first step, they got no early access or official casts in advance. Weak sauce. Bit of a muddle that intro text though. Let's Smash is from Hudson, the home of Bomberman, Mario Party and PC Genjin. It released over here as Center Court Tennis, and it's a tennis game! Woot! Seriously, how many tennis games are there, and how many do we really need? Super Tennis on the SNES, Virtua Tennis on the Dreamcast, and Wii Sports Tennis. Done. There are 3 great tennis games, let there be no more. This game features an assortment of arenas and playing surfaces, much like every tennis game. It features various playable avatars who handle differently, much like every tennis game. I wonder how tempting it was to copy and paste a previous article about a tennis game, just to check who was reading. When you think about the amount of N64 games in Japan versus the UK at the time, you'd think they would have gone with something a bit more exciting? Well, as you'll find out in the interview, sometimes the choice was made for them. Oof, this is freaking tasty. Choose your 5 favourite games of 1998. Lordy dicks, I love this. Could have won a game for your efforts as well. Oh man, I might do a follow-up mini episode talking about the results. In the meantime, in the comments, bash out your top N64 games of 1998. Do it! Here's mine, list fans. Number 5, Space Station Silicon Valley. Number 4, Turok 2. Number 3, Snowboard Kids. Number 2, Banjo-Kazooie. And in number 1, World Cup 98. Only kidding. It's Ocarina of Time, obviously. I remember my mates would play WC98 to death. Not my cup of tea. I'd like to give a few honourable mentions for Cruisin' USA, Mischief Makers, Mission Impossible and F-Zero X, which also came out in 1998. My prediction for best game of 1999 is Rogue Squadron. It's amazing. No, hang on. I got a pun for this. It's tremendous. Wait, no, hang on. I'm gonna do better. It's Christmas tremendous. Haha, nailed it. Am I wrong? No, of course I'm not, but feel free to add your own 2 pennies below. I cannot offer you a free game though, but I can send you a signed headshot, so there's something to aim for. Third party trollers, boy! I had all of these except for the Ultra Racer. That wheel came bundled with my N64 and a copy of Mario Kart. I kinda wish I still had it. I mean, kinda, as the mapping was pretty poor. The Mako pad, I'll defend to my dying breath, was on par with the official one and had a better design. Now, while I adore the Trident design of the N64 pad, it was entirely unnecessary and possibly worthy of the mockery it still receives. Now, I work at the Centre for Computing History in Cambridge, and one of our activities for visiting schools is to put controllers in order of age. Now, the N64 controller is always met with awe and confusion. How was it used? A little urchin will ask me. No one knows, but we mostly just grab the middle rod with the left palm and the right rod in the right palm. There is talk of mentals using the left rod for things, but there is no documented evidence for this, making it largely apocryphal. You could use a controller in each hand to get twin stick controls as we are used to today.
Piss off, Grandad,
the child will reply.
I didn't want your life story. Where's Fortnite and Pornhub in this place?
Beaties, beaties, beaties! Holy holly and the ivy, I remember those. I can't remember where the nearest one to me was. Newmarket, Bury St Edmunds, the North. They started life as a hobby railroad retailer before breaking out into all sorts and, eventually, games. Gotta say, looking at this, it's all a bit bewildering, isn't it? That 7 Magnificent Deals table has given me anxiety. The ranking of games by price makes it a little easier. Tell you what, try getting a used N64 with 6 games and a couple of controllers for $259.99. Go on, I'll wait. Not a chance. Today in town, I saw a SNES, a Super Nintendo, going for £95 in the window of CEX. Also, boycott CEX, folks. Scalping bastards. I mean, no wonder BTs went into administration. These prices are nuts. I wonder why we don't see awesome bundles like this anymore. I bought a PS5 a few months ago and there was Jack bundled with it. Not even a free sample of PlayStation Plus. Here, I could walk out the store with a complete setup that lasts me a few weeks, if not months. Jesus, can someone please hurry the hell up and build a time machine? I need these goodies. Whoa, this is the biggest combo I've ever seen in a magazine. Look at it. Win 10 grand's worth of car. Again, as a little appetizer for the soon-to-be released interview with the editor of this issue, there is a funny story about the shenanigans that went on with this car. Hit that notification bell and smash subscribe to be the first to know when it goes live. Or not, just wait, just keep an eye on my channel, drop in, I really don't care. Some stats about the car. I don't know, I'm massively not a car guy. I always found pugs ugly. If you wanted to win this silver sports hatchback, that is right, Dad. These small stumpy cars, they're called hatchbacks. What's an estate then? Eh? Isn't that a sedan? None the wiser. If you wanted to win, simply get an ace time on Arcade 1 and be in with a chance. Not only do they give you a chance to enter, but they also show you how to get a good time. What a nice bunch. Hang on, I'm going to have a go.
3, 2, 1, go! Medium left. Easy left. Easy left. Medium left. Medium right. Checkpoint. Easy right. Easy left. Easy left. Medium left. Easy left. Checkpoint. Easy left. Easy right. Easy right. Into. Easy left. Checkpoint.
I think that's a pretty good time. Would have got a bronze medal, I reckon. Can you beat me? Post your times in the comments. Cheats, dirty, rotten cheats. Before you could buy an aimbot that wins Call of Duty for you, you had to have these little machines. I go into detail on their workings in the first episode of BttN Newsies, so check it out if you haven't already. You see here it's a strange time when game and electronics boutique both roamed the high street before the dark times, before the buyout. Are you poor at games? Do you need help? No and no. I swear blind by this. If you put the hours in to learn something, you can do it. Bloodborne taught me that. Nothing is ever too hard. You just have to learn it. I believe in you, you little joystick wagglers. There's nothing you can't do in gaming. But if you really can't, then throwing your controller at the TV and calling the game a cheating shitebag is perfectly acceptable. More action replay codes. We're soon to leave the age of cheat carts entirely. There would be devices for the PlayStation and PS2 and the DS and the like, but nothing like how it was before. Now we can just buy our way to victory. Yippee! I might have mentioned this before, but most emulators these days have these devices built into them, meaning there's a good chance that the codes printed here might just work in RetroArch or RetroPie cores. This being the season of goodwill and helping your fellow man, why not help out the needy by telling them how to cheese their way through 1080 Mortal Kombat or GoldenEye? Have you got a top tip? Have I got a top tip? Well, in Turok, the ultimate cheat is NTHGTHDYGTCRTDTRTK, and it stands for On the 8th Day, God created Turok with all the vowels removed. It's pretty amazing. That's the best I can do without resorting to Google. More from BTs, these guys cannot help themselves. You'd think a double-page spread would be enough, but here they are with an addendum to their previous mega deals. God bless you, brave souls. Free RC car though. Do you remember RC cars in the 80s and 90s? Man alive, they were shite. I had an RC monster truck that drank batteries. I took it to a church and bazzed it down the aisles between the pews, pulling reckless turns. I mean, I'm sure Jesus would have approved, otherwise he wouldn't have made the tile flooring so conducive to RC monster truck chicanery. More tips. How crap do you think we are? Just kidding. I know from experience that tips pages were a huge deal in games magazines, until the net ruined those too. If you were stuck, rather than work out the issue for yourself, you could write and mail a letter, wait a month, and see if a solution was printed in your favourite magazine. But these requests, I don't know, man. If you're having trouble getting off the first stage of GoldenEye, then maybe gaming isn't for you. Have you tried crochet? Who the heck is Janu? I think these might be fake. In fact, I'm 99% sure they are. I mean, we're 2 degrees away from...
How do I get off the title screen?
There's a phone number you could call if you didn't fancy waiting for 1/12 of a year to get a response. Man, GoldenEye was big back then, wasn't it? I mean, no surprise. It still absolutely holds up today. There are rumblings of a release on the Switch as part of the Switch Online expansion pass, but knowing what a complete nightmare the rights are for this game, I'm not holding my breath. Back issues, I wish. Dear Lord, the prices on eBay make my eyes water. I never had a magazine sub as a kid. Looking back, I wish I had, and I'd kept my mags, but my room was always such a sty. I have a subscription to Retro Gamer now, and every copy of Wireframe. Lord knows why. I guess I just want to keep the printed game discourse alive, I suppose. I'll do a video on those to show you how far video games magazines have fallen. Got the skills? Nah, fam. Well, here are a couple of dozen challenges. Send proof and get added to these hallowed halls. This is something I wouldn't have dared do back in the day. Shame really, as the challenges aren't that tough. Maybe I'll make some follow-up episodes where I attempt to earn an N64 Gold Club certificate. Christ, look at all the names. What we have here is just 3 pages of readers' names. Right, straight off, I know for a fact that I can do challenge A, C, D, and possibly H. Keep an eye on this channel or my Twitch, twitch.tv/pressstarttogame. Can you do better? Probably. Some good advice for capturing your achievements. These days, we can just tap a button to record the last 30 seconds of gameplay, but back then, it was effort. But I remember the day I recorded myself playing Super Mario World and watching the playback. I was on TV. It was like Games Master or something. What the hell is Frontiers magazine? That's not video games. Apparently, it's a magazine about popular science, technology, and space. It sounds a bit like an early Focus magazine. Not games, don't care, moving on. Am I the best at Banjo-Kazooie? Yeah, sure, why not? I'm the best at crappy trades. I swapped my Philips CDI, a console that was outrageously expensive, for a copy of Banjo. No regrets. I swapped it with my dad, but still think I got cheated a bit. I've got another CDI now though, and my copy of Banjo, so everything is in order. Banjo is a masterclass in 3D platforming though, almost as good as Mario 64, and it was before Rare became obsessed with collectibles in games. Compare this to Donkey Kong 64's 3,800 items to collect. I ain't got time for that. I can't imagine another magazine so loaded with challenges as this one. Still, win 30 quid for rushing through Rare's best Mario 64 clone. It's worth a punt, innit? Steve Ridley of Norwich is evidently best at Banjo. Well done. Put it on your CV. What's the worst that could happen? Looks like a cheating foreign type 1 overall, coming over here, claiming benefits, stealing our video game records, nanny state, Brexit means Brexit! I'm surprised at the reader base. Got participants from the UK, obviously, Greece, Rotterdam, Sweden, Bury St Edmunds, and Norway. Excitement Direct has taken out 2 pages to sell you consoles and merch. Mario beanies, they're so cute. You're not wrong. How good is merch now though? Jeez. So much incredible stuff. I mean, back then, things always seemed a little off. Swap or swap. You never see it with an O these days, even though it's a perfectly cromulent spelling. $19.99 for a black Game Boy. Snowman's hats, that is the deal of the century. Something else unlikely to happen in official Nintendo publications, adverts for other hardware. Call for details about the Dreamcast. It's only 10 months away. Get your pre-orders in now! I remember getting mine on launch day, but that's for another episode. Multiple levels of nostalgia going on here. Among the lists of N64 games and accessories, we can see the last gasp of the Super Nintendo and Game Boy. Nothing over 30 quid. What would have got their own pages full of listings is now just leftover stock. It's sad. The end of a console generation is a very strange time. All the games you saw being hyped throughout the machine's life are slashed in price to get shot. The machines themselves dwarfed by their successor specifications. Even their makers throwing shade at them to promote the new hotness. The SNES was only 7 years old, 6 in the UK, and still capable of a lot more. But Nintendo couldn't wait to jump on the 3D bandwagon. Entering the 16-bit generation late had cost Nintendo in the battle against Sega, and so afraid were they in a repeat performance against PlayStation and Sega Saturn, they rushed N64 out the door. Man alive, the 90s was a wild time in games. Soggy Stolen, more challenges? in talking to the editor, it was clear that they sometimes had to struggle for content. In hindsight, we know the N64 had a very limited library, most third-party devs jumping onto good ship PlayStation, so something had to fill these pages, and it looks like a lot of challenges was the result. Get good at V-Rally99 and F-Zero X, and then tell the team at N64 Magazine just how shit hot you all are. Cheap ads, look at them, they have such character. That top left one looks dangerously like Comic Sans. Get games in Glasgow while visiting CA Games. Hadouken! Buy gamers for gamers. Get your great imports from them. Or just wait and get the UK versions for a third of the price. Free beer for life and a web address. What's the worst that could happen? Everyone loves a letters page, including the editor who kept a bunch of them for himself. Details coming soon. The star letter has been awarded to someone identifying what we now call tropes in video games. Dodgy geometry, convenient placed power-ups. They missed out on red barrels and save points outside boss arenas though. See kids, game delays have always been a thing. But in 1998 you didn't tweet death threats because your generic as balls shooter was delayed by a week. Some brave soul is offering to do the review staff's job for them. Knowing how hard it was to fill these enormous issues, the editorial staff would have done cartwheels in the street to get free content. Quibbles over review scores. It never ends. Just one more reason to get rid entirely. There have been numerous attempts over the years and it's usually been met with a drop in sales and page visits. Seems the simple types need a very clear indication of whether to buy a game. To keep those little buggers happy, why not simply introduce a traffic light system? Green is good, red is not good. There you go, Timmy. Enjoy. Here's the one. Someone has foreseen the nightmare scenario we are now all living. Cardboard boxes are a frigging terrible way to sell games. Absolutely terrible. Cheap as Poundland tinsel and equally as flimsy. Thankfully, the N64 was the last home console to endure non-plastic game boxes. There's a quiz. Win £50. Do you know the answers? Hit K to pause and check your answers in the PDF scan of the mag, link below. Look at this lovely art though, fair amount of banjo love. Zelda scene here squaring off against Cloud from hit Final Fantasy. The dino peeking through the grass is particularly good. Give that child a badge or something. Swear blind, I have an N64 Magazine badge somewhere. No idea at all where, but I think it's in a small tin alongside a Terminator 2 badge and one for Sonic the Comic. I absolutely did not dream this. Total Film, I remember that. I think it went digital only. I've no idea if it's still around. You gotta love the 90s. Like, hey Kath, show us the goods to sell more mags. Nah, I'm a serious actor. I'm in Zorro and that film with the lasers and Connery. Okay then, just lean forward really far then. Like you're examining an Oscar placed on a coffee table. Results. Before 9/11, there were no strange old men trying to creep on kiddies, so it was perfectly fine to advertise yourself in the pages of a magazine. Have a look at these hopeful types trying to make friends over N64 games. It warms the cockles. Have to say, these aren't nearly as horrifying or hilarious as those featured in GB Action, see episode 1. We'll swap my crap launch title / mediocre puzzler for your recent decent game. Good try, kiddo. An ad for the multi-platform video game magazine Games Master. Don't worry, there'll be a hell of an episode about that magazine in the near future, if not a special episode on the Games Master official book. Directories! I love these staples in retro mags. Memorise the scores so next time you're in Smith's with your mum, you know if that 1999 barg really is a barg and not a greasy steamer. There's lots of data for each entry and nice succinct summaries. Of course, time makes fools of us all, and it's really fun to go through his listings, taking the scores apart and seeing which stood the test of time. Oof, straight away, Body Harvest. A 91% game that slid into obscurity like an otter off a bank. Yes, I know it's a pooping reference, but it also worked really well here. Right, I take personal offence at 24% for Cruisin' USA. It's not that bad. Sub 50% is for broken games, and it really isn't. It's not very good, I'll grant you, but it is entirely playable, and with one hand. What more do you want? History has done a 180 on Doom 64, especially since the recent re-release on modern consoles. It is a belter through and through. Solid then, solid now. Correct. FIFA is poo. Incorrect. FIFA is poo. Just look at all his games though, bloody hell. Don't get me wrong, there is some dire stuff in here, but the gems are absolutely incredible. See how many of these Nintendo games are still going today. Quake 64 isn't that bad. It's the only game I can think of that had like overt loading screens. 86% for snowboard kids? Get in the bin, that's a 91% minimum. It is incredible, worth it for the soundtrack alone. Look it up on YouTube, kiddies. Hey, have you heard of the information superhighway? Hop on the web with your 56k modem and look at these web pages. IGN, get out, write out. Look at that web 1.0, pure HTML goodness right there. I remember learning HTML1 in college. I made websites. Back then, kids, you couldn't just fire up Adobe Website Maker for impatient people. You had to write it out in code in Notepad, then open up in a browser. Glorious. We were so happy. Let's get together and make our own Web 1.0 website and write about old games. How hard can it be? Looks like all the sites mentioned here are backed up on archive.org's Wayback Machine. Go have a look for yourselves. Japanese directory too. They even include a likelihood of a PAL conversion. Nice listing to contact developers and publishers. A lot of them have vanished over the years, either bought out and renamed like Ocean or closed down entirely like Argonaut. Buy stuff. It's Christmas. Consume all the things. Playing it coy with the prices should only serve to discourage, right? I'm not sure I'd be up for that. I reckon they get you on the line, then give it the hard sell. Joyless gaming journalist Wankmag Edge is putting handhelds against each other. Spoilers, the purple one wins, like by a lot. Those other two don't even make a dent in Europe. The VMS mentioned here is the Dreamcast VMU, I'm guessing, and the Pocket Station thing didn't really happen either. Good job, Edge. Fun fact, the Game Boy Color in the photo has been booted up without a cartridge in the back, hence the black bar where the Nintendo logo should be. Probably made for easier photos, but those in the know see this as amateurish. The magazine, while wonderful and above reproach, is listed as having a whopping 140 pages. What this here is 3 pages of filler. Irreverent, humorous filler, but filler nonetheless. The image here is Martin Kitts, ably assisted by nurse Tim Weaver, who is now an author and seemingly nice chap. Again, Maximum Power Up did a great podcast with him. Mr. Kitts gave an interview to gamebanter.co.uk, which is also well worth a read, as it gives a bit more insight into his character. Back to this though, Dr. Kitts is going to discern your level of video game addiction. Let's go through this together, real time, no script. For each of my questions, circle answer. Okay, how important is Zelda 64 to you? C. It's top of my Christmas list, and it was. When someone asks you what the relationship between Mario and Daisy is, do you reply, oh well, That's a weird one, because Mario and Daisy, yeah, that's been replaced. It's Mario and Peach now. They're just friends. How do you react when you lose to your friends at GoldenEye? It doesn't happen. I was pretty good at GoldenEye. I very rarely lost against my friends. I swear. In the unlikely event it happens, I would have sworn. Question 4. One day sitting around at work, one of your friends says, I've heard that Akihabara is amazing, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I've been there. 1990 to 2000 and, let's say 5, it was amazing. Now it sucks. Akihabara is not that great anymore. It's all anime stuff now. All the games have gone. Heartbreaking. Zelda's out. You ordered your copy 6 months ago, and now you're on your way to collect it. But when you get to kind of blah, 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 your name isn't on the list. Yeah, I think it's a C. That's strange. I definitely remember placing the order. Yeah, definitely a C for me. Although back in the day, when you pre-order the game, I think you had to put some money down. So you put like a $5 down and you kept your receipt. So my name was on the list. Get it together. 6. You turn up at a public appearance by Shigeru Miyamoto. You shout out to him to sign your autograph book. He tells you, do you say, cheers, Shigsy. My friend's going to be dead jealous. That's the one. 2 of your friends have PlayStations, fair play to them, while 2 of them have N64s. During a night out at a local curry house, the subject of which is when the That sounds like a very specific example. I'm guessing this happened to them on their Christmas night out, maybe. Oh, it's tricky. I mean, it didn't. The N64 doesn't have as many truly top-class games as the PlayStation. I mean, sheer numbers dictate alone. The library for the PlayStation was in the thousands. Yeah, so no. 8. You're wandering around Electronics Boutique. Woo! I wish. You overhear a young boy telling his mum that Turok 2 is the best game Nintendo have done since Super Mario. Oh dear, I don't know. Woof. I'd smile to myself. He's wrong. It wasn't by Nintendo, obviously. It's by Acclaim. Nintendo merely published it on their machine. I don't know. 9. You lend one of your friends a limited edition GoldenEye cart with 5 playable Bond characters on it. That never happened. A couple of days later, he tells you that he actually stood in it while you kill him. You stab him. Repeatedly. Stab him. Stab. Or apparently run him over. That's the best one. While sitting around at a local YMCA, one of your friends says that Mission Impossible is quite similar to GoldenEye and that they are both equally good spy games. Strangle him. GoldenEye is infinitely superior. They're incomparable. They're totally different. It's like a Mission Impossible is a third-person adventure game. Question 11. You are watching Live and Kicking. Hey, you remember that? Live and Kicking. Brilliant. Saturday morning TV. Excellent stuff. When Adam I don't know, comes on and begins reviewing Banjo-Kazooie. This might be a dig at the lackluster TV critique of gaming on Live and Kicking. Interesting. He gives Banjo 2 out of 5 and calls it an average Mario 64 clone. You ring up to contest this. You get live on air to young Adam. Yeah, D. Got a bullet with your name on it. In blood. I'm watching you. Yeah, that's fair. Yes, because obviously the guy's a bit special. And finally, you pop into Blockbuster and rent out a copy of Body Harvest. Oof, when you get it home, you fire it up and it's not a copy of Body Harvest. In fact, it's a copy of Mortal Kombat Mythologies. Livid. 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 I mean, not that bad. I'm not going to blow the place up, but I certainly wouldn't be happy. So it's a C for that one. So I reckon mostly got C's, so mostly C's. I know plenty about games. That's fair. I've been playing them for years. Also true. You don't know the ins and outs of Jalico's output on the NES. You cheeky sons of bitches. I absolutely do know a lot of the outputs of Jalico on the NES. They had Goal, they had Maniac Mansion, a bunch of stuff. Cheeky, cheeky bitches. But you know a good game from a poor one? I do. You're looking forward to Perfect Dark and Zelda? True, true. Sound of Mind 2, nothing to worry about here. That's right, that's me. I'm Sound of Mind. Oof, no we won't. This page is long gone. It redirects to Games Radar. Not sure how I feel about Games Radar, or any online video game site. They're all fairly insipid and dull. I've not been to IGN since 2006. Future Gamer would have been Future Publishing's online/email magazine. It didn't do well. I imagine that had it been launched just a little bit later, it would have fared better. I mean, in 1998, the internet was still gaining prominence in the UK. Next issue, the actual Ocarina review. Apparently, mentioned before, the editor got into a bit of trouble over the lack of review score in this issue. And to be fair, while the cover does say review, all we got was a detailed first impression. We were all going to buy it regardless, so the review is almost irrelevant. The next issue does promise a lot. I'd buy it today if I could, if only to scan the bloody thing so that everyone can enjoy it. Again, there are people out there with complete collections. Get them scanned, help preserve video game history. Finally, N64 Magazine answers the question, what if Rogue Squadron was all about serious men's serious shoes? Some quality shoe puns here. It reads like a regular preview. Good job, gang. Well, I've got one. Right. Rouge Squadron, where all the craft are ladies' makeup things. Nah, theirs is better, I'll admit it. Rounding out the issue is another advert for Special Reserve. Now, in the upcoming issue 3 of Back to the Newsies, I go into quite a bit of detail about these guys, so stay tuned for that. In the meantime, enjoy this almost pornographic slow scan down the page and imagine yourself as an excited child circling all the things you want for Christmas. The back cover has a large advert for mediocre character-based Star Fox wannabe from Wizards at Argonaut Games. N64 Magazine wasn't as generous as Total 64 or 64 Magazine, awarding it only 70%, which, I'll reiterate, is a perfectly good score for a game. It works, and may well have something that catches your attention. Give it a go. And that, my lovelies, is issue 23, Christmas 1998 of Future Publishing's N64 Magazine. And what have we learnt? We've learnt that despite the limited library and drip-fed releases, there is still more than enough content to fill 140 pages without the mag having 60 pages of adverts. We've seen that the limited software may well have affected the official mags, but being allowed to discuss and review imports from Japan and America provides content from a mag and gives the reader an insight into what's going on overseas and what they might be able to play in 12 to 18 months' time. We've seen that personality first was essential in standing out from the crowd. N64 Magazine is a bit of a cult magazine to this day and has a strong following. A good portion of this is due to the relationship between the reader and the staff. Throughout the read, you are reminded that each game is being reviewed by a specific reviewer. Said reviewer has their own foibles and style. The reader is quick to gauge this from the reviewer introductions early on in the mag and jokey references buried elsewhere. We've noticed there are relatively few adverts, and a few of the ads were for other Future Publishing periodicals. The magazine was doing well. Magazines selling well create a lot of profit, and the markup on printed mags back in the day was crazy. You'll notice magazines in the last throes of life will be full of ads in an attempt to keep their heads above water. We'll learn more about it in the upcoming interview, but calling a preview a review is a bold move. While it wasn't a review, the team had had a day with it at best in controlled conditions, there was still a lot of information, and everyone who was reading the mag regularly would have already asked Santa for it anyway. It was that big of a deal. I think that just about does it for our Christmas episode here. Thank you very much for watching, and I wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year! Ho ho ho!